Alrighty, g'day guys, welcome to MLP. What div are we on? Luxury power rankings for whatever season this is. I've lost count. I know everyone else has too. I was paid off to start with this division, so we're doing it anyway. And we're just going to go in order of the doc. I'm not going to do this fancy rank them before we start and go in with 1,000 details. What I'm going to do, because I have 5 divisions to do and I actually have a life, we're going to rank them live here. And then at the end, if I kind of think, I'll put a fancy little graphic up of who finished where, what order they all came in, and what their scores were. So yeah, I'll give you my thoughts on each team, give them a score out of probably, I don't know, out of 10, we'll say. And then at the end, we'll see how they all rank. So we're going to start with Ether. The Syracuse Sylveons, whatever that is, I don't know. Round 1 Chomp, I like the looks of. Round 3 Megalop, Teeny, Thundy, Vape Scissor, Whimsicott, not a fan. Skunk Tank, not a fan. Looking at this team, I really like the top 5. I think the team was built really nicely to support those. Yuxi, I think, is a really nice pick. But outside that, I feel like the bottom 3 could have been a little bit stronger. Looking at these, I feel like it's going to be pretty heavily reliant on Vaporeon. Because that's really the only sponge that you have in this team. Yuxi to an extent, Piloswine to an extent, but against bulkier teams, they can be worn down fairly quickly. I guess you've got the Wish Pass there. In terms of hazards, it's just Piloswine and Garchomp, so that's not the most amazing thing. We got removal in Thundy, Scizor, Whimsicott, Skunk Tank. That's pretty nice. Personally, I always lean on the side of having more hazards than more removal, now that Boots is a thing. But I think this team does fine. You've got breakers in Chomp, Teeny, Lop, and Thundy. The one thing I will say is I feel like unless you run Special Victini, which I'm a firm believer that Special Victini is very matchup dependent and physical is just generally the more splashable set, your special attack options really are Thundy or Yuxi. So, I don't know, I feel like this team started off very well, especially those top 3 or 4 start off really nicely here. But it kind of fell away. Let's scroll down and have a look at some speed tiers here. This is one thing that this team does really nicely. You got Megalop, Chomp and Teeny are nice to have. You got Thundy and you got Whimsicott. So it's a very fast team. Potential Scarfers, you've got like Scarf Chomp, Scarf Thundy. That's about it. So, yeah, as I said, with this team, I feel like it's going to be pretty heavily pressured on Vaporeon, pretty heavily pressured on Yuxi to take those hits, or you're going to have to be real offensive. So I'm going to start us off with a 7 out of 10 for Ether here. It's good, but it's not great, and I think that these last sort of 4 picks down here could have really rounded out the narrative a little bit nicer. Before we go on, yes, there's definitely going to be things I'm missing because I'm looking over these one at a time. So forgive me if I get a few placings wrong. We've got Firefin now. He's New York Nightmares. Love that logo. That's pretty cool. Mega Mawile, Hydra, Slowking, Lycandusk, Nidoqueen, Kong, Crobat, Deki Kecleon, Vanillux, and Electabuzz. So right off the bat, first thing I see when I look at this team is let's just take these 3 mons and let's just ignore them. So we really have 8 mons here, which is fine. I am a big believer in top heavy is good. You also have Vanillux, which a lot of teams, if they don't get a real solid water type or a real solid steel, can kind of just lose to like a Scarf or a Specs Vanillux, or at least take a lot of damage from it. I really like Mawile Hydreigon. I think that's a core that's been used a lot, but it does have a bit of a fighting weakness, so we've got Slowking and Nidoqueen to patch that up. Conkeldurr's a really good mon, one of my favourites. One thing I will say is he really needed Crobat for that speed, otherwise it was looking a bit, hey, how you going? Um, Slowking, Decidueye, Nidoqueen as sort of your bulkier mons, Conkeldurr to an extent. That's where I kind of see this team letting us down, and the momentum's not terrible with Hydra, Crobat, Decidueye. Is Lycanroc Dusk, I think, is a fantastic mon. I'm just not overly sure on it, how well it fit on this team. I think a bulkier pivot, or maybe like a strong special attacker to complement Hydreigon. Because Nidoqueen, yes, can be a breaker, but I personally find that sort of it's bulkier, the Stealth Rock with its taunt, those sort of sets work nicer. So outside of that, you don't have the greatest special offense. But nonetheless, it's still a really strong team. I'm looking at speed tiers. One thing that this team has let down on is you have 3 mons that are fast, and then everything else is slow. You have Crobat, you have Lycanroc Dusk, and you have Hydra, and then the rest is pretty slow. And in terms of Scarfers, you really only have Lycanroc and Hydra, which 2 of your already fast mons. So looking at this mons in around the 95, even those mons that are base 100 or not too worried about outspeeding Scarfers can afford to run a lot of not having to run a lot of speed. So I don't know, that's me probably being a bit nitpicky. I do like this team. I think it's similar to the last team where its first few mons were really strong, but other than that, it was after sort of down here, Kecleon, Vanilluxe, Electabuzz, I think could have been a little bit stronger to really round out that team. Sort of maybe a couple of pivots to just really get in Mawile, get in Hydra, get in Lycanroc Dusk and Conkeldurr, and just click those buttons, because that's what this team is going to do well. If you under prep for this, or 5 fin catches you on a double, you're going to take a chunk, because nothing switches into those 4. So I'm going to give this a nice 8 out of 10. So yeah, moving on to Frosteye. I'm not even going to comment on that logo. Looking at this team here, we got Rillaboom, Melmetal, Sylveon, we got Latias, Tarak, Moltres, Mega Gyarados, Donphan, Tentacruel, and Bouffalon. First of all, Melmetal, I don't think round 2 is the greatest play, although I can appreciate it somewhat works with the Rillaboom. Sylveon's a great mon. Latias and Tarak are great. Looking at this team, it seems like there's a lot of individual mons that work well together. Our momentum here is Rillaboom and Moltres. Yeah, Rillaboom and Moltres are our only things. And one thing I find with Moltres is you want to keep Roost, you want a fire move, you want a static move, and then Hurricane. So I find it really hard to fit U-turn on Moltres personally, unless you're running a more offensive set. So having Rillaboom as your only momentum when you've got breakers like Tarak, Mega Gyarados, and Melmetal, I think is going to be a real downside to this team, and I think that Frosteye is going to have to predict a lot of switches here. Looking at our speed tiers, it's also a very slow team. Laddie is your only fast mon, and then Tarak is your only mons over base 100. It's going to be tough. You're going to have a lot of mon. Looking at, say, 5, and he's got a Crobat. That Crobat can run a lot of... can afford to not run much speed EVs. Looking at this team, it's also very physically inclined in terms of attacking stats. When you got Moltres, Laddie, and Sylveon as your only special attackers. As I said, offensive Moltres I don't think's the best set for this gen. I think just its defensive typing really makes it a nice sort of pivot or defensive mon to sort of synergize with this team. As I said, Sylveon, again, offensive isn't really the most common set. So Latios is really a special attacker here, which I think could come undone. In terms of removal, we have Laddie, we got Moltres, we got Donphan, and we got Tentacle, so we got nice removal. Our rockers are Terrakion and Donphan. Like that's a bit. I feel like Donphan's gonna have to come more than it really should. Especially, yeah. So I'm personally, I think this team will get a few wins this season because, and it really depends on how the opponent preps for it. Because mons like Melmetal, mons like Mega Gyarados, if you don't prep for these properly, Terrakion even, they're gonna just run straight through you. But personally, I don't think this is quite up to the tier that we've seen, so I'm gonna give this a 6 out of 10. Um, yeah, as I said, we're looking at it. It's got some really nice defensive stats here. Um, Not a lot of the mons have reliable recovery either. You've got Sylveon, you've got Moltres. So if you were going for that bit of a slower, bit of a bulkier team, it's pretty reliant on Sylveon spreading some wishes around. So yeah, as I said, personally this isn't my favourite, but I don't think it's an awful draft. We've got HGC with the Sao Paulo Seismitoad. That's a really cool logo. I'm a fan of that. And we got Mega Gallade, Celesteela, Spectria, Silvally, Thundy T, Alolan Mark, Blastoise, Slurpuff, Rhyperior, Pyroar, and Appleton. Right off the bat, I see Mega Gallade and I get excited. I see Celesteela, I'm a big fan of that mon. A lot of people say it got worse without Z-moves, but I don't think so. I think that's a fantastic mon. Mega Gallade, fantastic. Spectria, I think, is really good if you have a way to break dark types. And Mega Gallade is the best fighting in the format, like hands down. So yeah, I guess that's one of the best ways to break darks. Slurpuff is a bit lackluster on a fairy, but you can also run things like Silvally fighting or fairy or some sort of way to break them. I've even seen Silvally bug do work. Thundy T, really nice. In conjunction with Spectria, just like two special nukes on this team. In terms of momentum we have here, it's something that I love talking about because it really helps you get those breakers in. It's Silvally, it's Thundy, and that's kind of it, which is one of the big weaknesses for this team, I feel like. Getting Mega Gallade in is probably the hardest part because teams so strongly prep for it that I think getting it in with some slow momentum is really vital. Alolan Mark, I really love that mon. You've got two flying types. Your grass type isn't really a Pokemon, but Appleton, I guess, can be like a nice defensive mon. So I think Alolan Mark's really nice here. It doesn't give you a fairy resist, but you have Celesteela, which does that fantastically. One thing I will say is, if we look at our hazards, we only have one Stealth Rocker in Rhyperior, and we have no Spikes or T-Spikes. So that means you're really not either forced to bring Rhyperior most weeks, which, looking at that top 6 or 7, you're forced to bench one of those, which isn't great, or you're allowing mons like, say, the Moltres or Frost Eyes team to not have to run boots and to get another item, which I think's really not great. As much as people love to hate on boots this format, I think forcing them is definitely a point to prove. Yeah, also look at Pyroar and Appleton. I think I would have dropped these and either upgraded your fairy or got a better grass type, because I just don't think they add too much to the team. Also, just another Stealth Rocker, please. One mon that I think would actually fit quite nicely on this team is something like a Celebi. I don't know, that's probably a lot of points, but like, you can't drop these bottom two, but it's a grass type, it's got some momentum, it's a Stealth Rocker. I think something like that would have fit really well. Speed tiers, we've got Spectria that's fast. We've got Mega Gallade. Thundy's not that fast, but it's a really good Scarfer. Outside that, you got like Shell Smash Blastoise, which I guess is fast, or Totemize Steeler. It's not the fastest team. So I think this is more on par with Aether's team. The lack of hazards really hurts it, I think. So we're going to give it a 7. What did Aether have? Oh, we're gonna give us a 6.5 out of 10. Yeah, actually, no. We're going to give it a 7 out of 10. Just because I've changed my mind. Just because those first, like, 4 or 5 mons, I might be a little biased. I love those mons. Jabba. Next, we got the England Ekans. Round 1 Lele, I don't think it was a great pick. Kurum round 2. This is a really interesting team. So first things first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these 3 mons, and we're going to forget they exist, because they're kind of trash. Mega Beedrill round 4. As I said, this team is weird. I'm not even sure where to start, because this team just doesn't really synergize. You feel like Embor in there. I'm not sure what Embor's really doing. It's a weird team. Let's start with momentum, because I guess we have to start somewhere. We've got like Serena and Beedrill. I would have loved one more, because you've got these top 3, especially really good breakers. You've just got to find a way to get them in. Looking at these speed tiers, you have Mega B at 145, and then nothing over 100. And that means, like, base 110s can run Adamant, run Modest. Like, I am really not a fan of this team. Look at our defensive utility here. Like, just straight down this column here, we have Suicune, which is fat. You have Kyurem, which running Fizdef Kyurem, a Fizdef Ice type is just not a thing, and Serena. Outside of that, it's pretty barren. And then you got like Suicune, you got Lele, and you got Galarian Moltres. Lele and Moltres, again, Mon's better suited to special attack. Yes, I know Poltergeist is here, but as I said, it's a Mon that can't touch dark types, and it's just a worse Spectria. So we're going to pretend that that doesn't exist. So yeah, I'm really not a fan of this team, just because I don't see any synergies here. It's got a lot of mons that have high attack stat, like a lot. Like, yes, Kyurem's a special attacker, but you can run physical. You've got like Drill, Beedrill, Serena, Embor. Well, Alolan Golem's not really a mon. Yeah, I just don't think this synergizes really well. I think I can kind of see like these top 3, and then if you're a Beedrill fan, I guess like these 5 can work together. But you really need something to complement them. In terms of rockers, we have Excadrill, and we have Alolan Golem. That's just not a great point on hazards. Removal's not terrible with Drill, Serena. Actually, now that I look at it, it's Drill, Serena, and Beedrill. Yeah, I'm going to give this team... I'm going to give this... just because I want room to move down, I'm going to give this a 3.5 out of 10. I just... Personally, I don't see this team really winning games unless you just out-offense your opponent, get some decent doubles, yeah. So let's go to Jacob. Jacob is the Las Vegas Corviknights. That's another really cool logo. Logos have stepped it up since I used to like be a lot more active in the community. Taunty, Zera Aura, man after my own heart. I love Zera. For those of you who don't know, it's my most drafted mon, and so any team with Zera is going to have a little bias. But in saying that, I'm not sure I need to give this team bias, because let's just look at this, like, this top 6. Yeah, Obstagoon's not as strong, but that top 6 could be a ladder team. Like, that's really strong. Keldeo Milotic is the only thing that I'm a bit sort of on, because you're a bit electric weak, but then you've got Zera or a Mega Chomp. Something like a Zapdos could be really annoying for you to deal with, actually. Or, good thing you don't have to face another Zera Aura. Galarian Slowbro, I haven't personally used. I've had a lot of people tell me it's really good. Like, it's mixed offenses. It's got, like, Quick Draw, which is a niche ability. Steelix is a really good low-tier steel type, and considering the points you burned on Taunty, Zera, Milotic, Mega Chomp, and Keldeo, you probably need the low-tier steel. Delmise is really nice for some removal. I don't really like Florges this gen. I think it's a very free way to let your opponent's steals in, and it's kind of hard to punish. And then Stonejourner, I actually really like Stonejourner as a low-tier rocker and pick, because it's actually got a respectable speed tier for a rock type. Like that 70 speed, it's not the greatest, but you slap a scarf on there, or even a band, and you got 125 attack. You can make things happen with a Stonejourner. I think it's a cool mon. Definitely worth the pickup. Let's look at its hazard game. Its hazard game is Mega Chomp. It's Steelix and it's Stonejourner. It's not the strongest, but I think it's quite nice. We're looking at removal. We've got Torn T, we got Delmise, and we got Florges. Yeah, again, it's not the strongest, but it does the job. Like, Torn's going to come every week with this team. There is no way that Torn gets benched, so you always have an option for removal. You might have to take off a move that you want, but it's always there. Momentum, we've got Torn, we've got Zero, we've got Keldeo, and that's about it. Again, it does the job, because those 3 mons are probably coming every week. One thing I would say is Milotic, I think, could be dropped for maybe a high tier. Milotic and Florges, maybe, I would drop and get, if there's any high tier fairies left, because I think a nice high tier bulky fairy, something like, I mean, ideally, like Sylveon would fit really nice on this team, I think. Yeah, I just don't like I don't mind doubling up on types, but when they're 2 mons that are going to come most weeks is what I struggle with. Speed tiers, this team is very nice. Taunty, Zera, Keldeo, and then obviously pre-Mega Chomp all over base 100. You've got, as I said, a lot of nice Scarf options. Scarf Keldeo, Scarf Obstagoon as well. Is a really nice set with just like spamming stabs. We've got Stonejourner is a good Scarfer, as I've mentioned before. But yeah, I'm trying to look for a glaring weakness in this team. But I'm not really sure I can find one, other than the fact that there's 2 high-tier water types. Your Fairy Resist is only Steelix and Slowbro, that's not bad. Yeah, so as I said, I really like this top 5, apart from the double water. Obstagoon and Steelix I really like. Stonejourner, Florger, as much as I love Stonejourner, I feel like the points from picking up this mon could have gone into improving, like maybe changing my Milotic for, I'm not sure, what types are we missing here? I could normal type, I feel like could have been nice. A high tier fairy, yeah, I'm not too sure, but it'd come to me if I sat here and looked at it long enough. A high tier dragon, maybe, but you've got Mega Chomp, so that's not necessary. Yeah, anyway, I think it's a good, solid team. I think this is a 7 out of 10. No, 7.5 out of 10. Let's go to JCaps, Mr. Subtoxic himself. I didn't even know it was called the Subtoxic Slowbros. So we got Dio Speed, we got Clefable, Galarian Zapdos, Pex, Crook, Ferrothorn, Noivern, Chandelure, Kamala, and Mega Manectric. First thing when I look at this team, I see Galarian Zapdos. That thing is a powerhouse. I really love that mon this gen, because it's better Hawlucha, and everyone knows what Hawlucha can do in terrain. Let's scroll back up, and Deoxys Speed... I'm yet to see anyone really use that, but I know that it has a lot of potential. I'm just yet to see someone really make use of it. Toxapex, Clefable, Ferrothorn, just sort of embracing the team name there. One thing I will say is sort of your Edgequake weak resist doesn't exist, like, at all. Your grass type is Ferrothorn. Yeah, so something like an Excadrill can probably run wreck on this team. That's the biggest weakness, I think. Mega Manectric, I don't know, you don't break ground types super well to the point where Mega Manectric is, like, good this gen, because your water's Toxapex, which isn't breaking much, your grass is Ferrothorn. Yeah, I don't know, It's a weird one, this team, because looking at its hazard game, you've got Ferrothorn, Crook, Clefable that can all set rocks, and they're mons that are going to come all the time. There's going to be one. Oh, and Deoxys as well. So you've got 4 rockers that want to come to most games. You got T-Spikes from Pex. You've got removal in Noiva and Kamala. Actually, removal isn't that great, but you can probably force other people to remove, and you're not inherently weak to rocks. Although, yeah. I don't know, the more I look at this team, the less I love it. Like, you got Noiva and Deoxys and Zapdos, your speed control. Outside of that, like, your special attack is these 2 mons here. Yes, Nasty Plot Dio exists. I'm not sure. You don't have the greatest momentum. I find with Galarian Zapdos that you wanted to sort of spam U-turners and Volt Switches, and then it just sort of, you click that button enough times, and suddenly the opponent's team is dead to a Thunderous Kick or a Close Combat. Yeah, I'm a bit torn on this one, because it's got a lot of mons that I like. Clefable, Galarian Zapdos, Pex, Noivern. They're all Crook. They're all really good mons. I just... I think he's going to have to live up to his name, because the Subtoxic, because your breaking power just isn't quite there. I think this is a 7 out of 10 for me. Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird one, this one, because it's a pretty stally team with Clef, Pex, Pharaoh. But then, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this one goes. You can probably hear that I'm very confused. I think a 7 out of 10 isn't bad. So let's have a look at K-Savage, the Columbus Crobats. I have seen this logo before, and it's one of my favorite ones. It just looks really clean. For someone who has designed logos in the past, that's like a really nice... It's just a really nice job. Whoever made that should... props to them. So we have the Dragapult roster here. We got Pulp, Mandibuzz, Heatran, Nihilego, Blissey, Buzzwole, Tangela, Quagsire, Rotom Frost, and Mega Gardevoir. God, thank God for Mega Gardevoir, because I'm reading down that list going, where did you spend all your points? Yeah, this is an interesting roster for me, because once again, we have some of the best breakers in the format. You've got Nihilego, Buzzwole, Dragapult. Offensive Heatran is really good at breaking things. Mega Gardevoir. But we just have no way to bring them in. We have Rotom Frost and Dragapult and Mandibuzz. Mandibuzz, yes. Running U-turn on Mandibuzz is sometimes a lot harder than you think, because you want Roost. Looking at this team, it's probably going to want Defog, because your other option is Rotom Frost. So Roost Defog, like, if you put U-turn on there, you'll either have Foul Play or Toxic, or like you're missing a move. You're missing sort of one of those moves that you would really want to run. In terms of Stealth Rockers, we have Nihi, we have Tran, we have Blissey. So fitting a rocker on the team each week isn't going to be hard, because one of those 3 will always come. And they generally can afford to run rocks as well. Tangela is a really nice low tier option to pair with Heatran. That really only loses to Mamoswine, especially when you got Buzzwole there. I think Buzzwole's a nice mon. Just sort of really nice mon to throw on when you don't have a fighting type. But yeah, as I said, this team, it has some really good breakers, but no way to get them in. Rotom Frost, looking at this roster, like, Rotom Frost doesn't come very often, Quagsire doesn't come very often, because what are you benching for it? And with no Quagsire, it's water, it's Scald Switch and doesn't exist. Like, you look at the mons that resist Scald, like, you got Dragapult, that doesn't want to take a burn. Buzzwole isn't weak to it, but it doesn't want to take a burn. Mega Gardevoir doesn't want to be switching in to take too many attacks. It's Blissey, and if you've got, like, mons that can run mixed, or just a way to punish Blissey, I think this team could be abused a little bit. So let's look at our speed tiers. We have Dragapult at 142. We have Nihilego at 103. We have Mega Gardevoir at 100. And then we've got Rotom Frost at 86. So base 110, anything sort of from 141 down to 118 can run Modest or Adamant. and that covers a lot more mons than you can think. Anything over 104 is going to be able to outspeed this whole team, unless you run Scarf Tran or Scarf Buzzwole, which Scarf Neo Lego is decent, like Scarf Spatak boosting is a really nice set, but it's also pretty weak to steel types. Although you do have a good way to break steel types in Heatran and Buzzwole. Quags, I just think a lot more. It's sort of a slow team that hasn't done what a slow team does overly well. Like, you look at this and you're like, wow, breaking this team specially is going to be really hard. And then you look at this column and you're like, wow, this team is like some really great physical defense as well. But that's all well and good. But you don't have. Then you have a Dragapult slapped on there. And it's sort of like. And a Mega Guard slapped on there. And it's like, oh, I have this really bulky, sort of tanky team that can hit hard in some cases. The like of Tran, with the like of Knee, with like of Buzz. And then we've just sort of slapped Dragapult and Mega Guard on there, is what it feels like to me. I don't know. This team. It has some really good mons. I just. Not sure how all the synergies lie. I think maybe like Blissey and then these three could potentially be swapped for just a bit more speed, some momentum. Just get something that's like fast and runs U-turn, honestly. Another physical attacker, because you have Boswell and you have Dragapult. And then even special attackers, you have like Nihi, and you have Mega Guard and Tran. So yeah, this team, I think, is 6 out of 10 for me. I just don't see the synergy with this one. So moving on, we got Nerd here, the Cracknut. That's I love seeing these logos for the first time. It's a very interesting one. We got Dancy Slowbro, Aegislash, Zygarde, Talonflame, Heracross, Roserade, Chansey, Persian, Rotom Fan, and Galarian Darumaka. So someone clearly had one extra point left over. They didn't know what to do, so they just picked up something. I mean, fair. I would have personally picked up just a 1-point Weber, because you have like Heracross, Roserade, Aegislash. Aegislash not so much. But like the Mega Dian, like your team functions actually really well under Webs. Mega Diancie, Aegislash, Zygarde just like screams Gen 7 to me. Because that was just a core that's worked so well. Let's start off looking at our hazards, as I love doing. We have Mega Diancie and we have Chansey as our Stealth Rockers. I am really not a fan of like Rocks Mega Diancie or forcing them, because it's a mon that can do so much, and when you've got 160 in both offenses, like it's a shame to force Rocks on that mon. I know it can run Rocks really well. You do also have Roserade that can run both spikes, so that's not an issue. But yeah, it's not the strongest hazard game I've seen. Personally, Chansey is a mon that I like, contrary to what most people think when they draft. I don't know most, but like a few people have said that, like, oh, we really love running Chansey on like slow stally teams. I'm like, actually, I prefer to run it on hyper offense or like really aggressive teams, because you can come in and click Wish and then they struggle to punish your doubles. And I think this team is somewhere in the middle. Aegislash, I think, is an interesting fit here, considering that our ground resists aren't the strong, like Rotom and Talonflame, and considering both those mons are weak to rock moves, Edgequake resist really isn't great. It's probably going to have to be Slowbro most times, and Slowbro is a really good mon to just sort of patch weaknesses. Yeah, next point, we've got Momentum, and I will count Slowbro as a teleporter because it's one of the best teleporters with regen. So we've got Slowbro, we got Talonflame, and we got Alolan Persian. So, and Rotom Fan. But I mean, that mon's not. It's the worst Rotom in my opinion. So it's not terrible there. Looking at our breaking power, we have Heracross, we have Zygarde, and we got Mega Diancie in the physical side. Not overly strong, but not weak. We got Aegislash. Oh, sorry, and we got Aegislash as well, so that's pretty solid. We got Diancie again, and Aegislash again, as well as Roserade on the special side, so this does a good job. Apart from a pretty big Edgequake weakness, I'm looking at it now, and there's not really another weakness that I see. A knockoff switching isn't the best. Yeah, knockoff because Heracross really likes its item, and forcing Dancy to be a knockoff switch-in is a little interesting, but it can be done. Yeah, this team really doesn't like losing its item at all because Slowbro... I mean, Slowbro can lose its item, but it's knock weak. Aegislash, Talonflame, Heracross, Chansey all love having their item. So yeah, this is an interesting one for me. I'm not really sure where to rank this. It's like, it's good, but it's not great. I think I'm gonna give this a 6.5 out of 10. This is a lot more difficult than I thought it would be originally ranking. I expected there to be some like amazing drafts and some just trash ones. Speed tiers, we didn't look at those. Persian plus Talonflame plus Diancie, really good. Zygarde's not a bad speed tier. We not the fastest, but we sort of trickle our way down, which is kind of what you want. So it's not terrible. I don't mind it. Yeah, so yeah, I'm gonna stick with my 6.5. We're gonna move on to Palkia. I have no idea how long I've been going, and I've got to record 5 of these today. God help me. So we've got the London Lanterns and Palkia, who's Lando, Rotomosh, Weavile, Swampert, Mienshao, Metagross, Comfey, Licky, Colossal, Roselia, Reuniclus, and Emolga. Interesting team. Straight off the bat, interesting team. Yeah, it's a bit of an interesting one. We do have double water. Swampert Rotom is quite a nice one. Comfey, it's got significantly worse this gen. It can't really touch steals, which means it's basically just a cleric sort of pivot mon, which isn't a bad thing. Speaking of pivots, that's one thing this team does have quite a few of. We've got Lando, we've got Rotom, we've got Swampert, we've got Mienshao, and we've got Comfey. We have momentum, and that's great because it gets a Sheer Force Lando in, which is phenomenal. It also gets a Weavile in, and it gets Reuniclus in. This team struggles a bit for breakers, I think. Metagross isn't bad. It's an interesting team, this one. Physical dark types, I can see giving this team a bit of trouble because I resist some Mienshao Comfey, and I mean, we got 51 HP here on Comfey. It's not the greatest physical wall. Something like I'm trying to think, physical dark types that have a second. I mean, Weavile would be the one that just runs train on this team, but we have Weavile here. Yeah, I'm sure Palkia here knows what I'm talking about. Emolga and Colossal, I don't think are really worth Comfey, and then Roselia. Like those 4, honestly, like I reckon scrapping those 4 and picking up 2 really good mons, or even like 1, like super good mon. This team's sort of got a lot of the mid-tier stuff. Looking at our rockers, that's another thing we can do. We got Swampert, we got Metagross, we got Colossal. Swampert and Metagross. Oh, and Lando. But Sheer Force Lando isn't really the play most of the time. I think Swampert Metagross is actually good enough, even though it's only 2. To the point where Colossal it's really here as like a hazard mon and a niche. I can click Rock Step like once a season. So I don't think it's really necessary. Roselia is like, it's hazards and a fairy resist. I think Metagross is a really good fairy resist, so I don't think it's as needed on this team. Spikes, yeah, they're nice, but Yeah, I can sort of guess spikes, but then your colossals, your spinner, if you want a hazard stack. And Emolga, I just don't think Emolga really does anything for this team because you already have like double ground as a electric immunity. I think Emolga gets Volt Absorb, if I'm right. No, it gets Motor Drive. It was the same thing. So yeah, and then Comfey, I think a really nice like offensive mon here, as instead of those bottom three would be good because your speed tiers are Weavile and Mienshao. Because Emolga, as I said, isn't a Pokemon, and that's not going to come. Yeah, so it's not the quickest. It's your special attack is Reuni plus Sheer Force Lando. Physical mon's much better. You got Weavile, you've got Lando, you've got Mienshao, you've got Metagross. In terms of defense, you've got some bulky mons here. Yeah, so this is a sort of tried to do too much instead of sacrificing maybe one thing and just going for some really high tier options for the rest. This is. I'm actually going to flick back to Nerd. I think this is, again, sort of a middle of the tier. Middle of the road. I think this is going to get the same rating as the last one. 6.5 out of 10. I think it's good but not great. Panda. God, how many do I have to go? I have 6 teams left to go. This is going to be... I just saw that logo. We're not going to comment on it. Yeah, it's... Well, that annoys me because this team looks really good, but he has that for a logo. Zamazenta, which I think is absolutely busted. We normally don't scroll down right away, but let's just look at these. Yes, it gets no item, but it's 145 in both defenses, 130 attack, 128 speed. Who thought this was okay? It's also a steel type and fighting type, two really good offensive typings. Like what was it? Like bulky psychics, but then you just hit them with like Behemoth Bash, I think is like Zamazenta's move. I don't know. Galarian Slowking is again a really good mon. Rotom Heat, Seismitoad, Tangrowth, Mega Pidge, Togekiss, Tita, Flygon, and Cryogonal. This looks a really solid team. It struggles for breakers. Like you have Zamazenta, you have Mega Pidge, you have Tita, and offensive Togekiss to an extent. I mean, this team. I feel like if the opponent has an answer for Zamazenta, then this team's going to struggle. But if they don't, which like most teams don't, then yeah, let's just actually the first time we're going to look at this week 1 matchup, and we're just gonna this is against a Mew and an Arcanine, 2 really good mons against Zamazenta. I feel like I haven't prepped for it, I haven't used it, so I'm just taking a guess. T-Tire against Mew is like, if Pursuit was around, it'd be a lot better. And then like Arcanine, we break that because we have Seismitoad, we have T-Tire again. So actually T-Tire is a really nice pair for Zamazenta. One thing I would have liked is maybe instead of like Cryogonal, you could have gone like Sandslash or Stoutland, just to give you that like Sand Sweeper option because you have Zamazenta and Pidge, and then it's down to like Flygon, and you're into the 80s. So, actually, looking at this, I feel like we've got a lot of bulk and sort of glue-mons, as I like to call them, like your Rotoms, your Seismitoads, your Tangrowth. They really glue your team together. But not... If this team goes well, then Zamazenta and Pidge are going to get like 15 kills each this season, with T-Tar chipping in a bit. So, yeah, it's interesting. I do like the Toad to sort of combat the Scald weakness, because I get like bulky waters, clicking Scald against Zamazenta could be an option to like try and burn it. If we look at our rockers, we have T-Tar, we have Seismitoad. I guess it's 2 generally isn't like a lot, but they're 2 mons that are going to come well, they're 2 mons that one of them's going to come most of the time. So it's not going to be too hard to fit a rocker. Our removal is Rotom Heat, Mega Pidge, Togekiss, Flygon Cryogonal. So yeah, that's further to my point that Cryogonal really doesn't feel needed here. Even I reckon like getting rid of these two for another breaker would be nice. Our momentum is Rotom Heat, Mega Pidge, Flygon. Yeah, getting rid of these two, I've decided, and getting like a breaker that has U-turn or Volt Switch would be really nice for this team. Like our special attack stats, we got a few. We got like Tangrowth, we got Galar-King. One thing I do like is this team lets Galarian Slowking go like more offensive, which I think it's got the coverage, and we haven't seen a lot of that. But in saying that, I think it's, again, it's sort of like, I'm torn, because if there wasn't a Zamazenta on this team, I wouldn't rate it very highly, but there is, and I'm going to go 7. I think it's slightly better than Palkia's. Yeah, it's slightly better than Palkia's, but I don't think it's quite up to, like, this is the point where I start, like, flicking back. Let's look at Jacob. I gave him a 7.5. Yeah, I don't think it's quite up to the versatility of what Jacob's got going on here. So up next, Puffer. I'm glad I wrote all these down, so I remembered where I was at. So we got Urshifu, Tapu Fini, Corviknight, Raikou, Porygon 2, Dragalge, Alakazam, Volcarona, Mega Abomasnow, and Regirock. Okay, so what I see is like, really, that's actually a really nice looking team. We got, first of all, our speed tiers are good. We got Zam, we got Raikou, we got Volcarona, we got Urshifu. Our momentum, we have Urshifu, we've got Corviknight, we got Raikou, we've got Porygon 2 Teleport, we got Dragalge, we got Volcarona. So this team is going to be clicking U-turn, and that means you can get Zam, you can get, well, if you ever bring Mega Snow, which you probably shouldn't, because it's kind of trash. You can get these. Oh, Finny. Did Finny get Flip Turn? I don't remember. I don't think it did, now that I think about it. But yeah, you can get Finny in. One thing I will say is Finny's really good with Dragon types that don't click their stab. Dragalge kind of likes clicking its adaptability boosted Dracos. That's like, a bit. But I do think Dragalge is like still like not a bad fit for this. I don't know. Yeah, how well do we break the steel types is my question. Well, we got Corviknight, we got Dragalge. Not the steel, the fairy types. We got Volcarona that resists fairy, so we do that pretty well. Our rockers are Regirock. I knew there'd be something wrong with this team. We have Regirock as our stealth rocker. That's not good. Because Mons that you kind of want to set rocks and like maybe a layer of spikes with a Shifu, because Mons that could have taken a hit now definitely can't. Our removal is Corviknight, is Finny. I think Volcarona gets it, and that's it. There's Mons here that I haven't really used before, but yeah, the removal is decent. Our breaking power, we have... One thing I will say is this team is very specially orientated, plus Shifu, which actually, normally I would say isn't a great thing, but just because of how oppressive Shifu is, it's not a terrible thing, because they have to dedicate like Mons to physical defense anyway. Of course you have Mega Abomasnow. If Buffer can make Mega Snow work, I will thoroughly enjoy that, and I encourage him to tag me in every replay where Abomasnow gets a kill, because I just love low-tier Megas doing work. Then you got like Raikou, you got a Zam, Volcarona. Finny can run like setup sets. Like Corviknight's really good. I really like this team. One thing I will say is its ice resist doesn't really exist outside of Finny. So I think Finny might be a bit pressured, but Finny Corviknight. What's our ground type? Did we forget to draw? Puffer, we were looking so strong. Honestly, with this team, drop Regirock and pick up a ground type that has Stealth Rocks, just because at the moment, like, we look at who had the Thundy. Let's look at your opponent's matchup. This Raichu, normally not a problem at all. Now it can just, like, looking at your speed tiers, like Scarf or Specs, and just or banned or whatever, and just click buttons. Like, because Raikou and Dragalge, it just clicks Volt Switch, and I think that's, like, whoever had Mega Manectric when they play this team is going to be frothing, because this is like the matchup that you love Mega Manectric in Gen 8 for when there's no ground type. So yeah, please, like, drop Regirock, pick up a ground type, no Stealth Rocks that you can bring. You know what, we're actually going to see. Let's go back to the draft board. The rosters, where are we? Puffer, Regirock, 4 points. Let's go to 4 points and find you a ground type, because it's 2021, people. Everyone should have a ground type. There's a Alolan Dugtrio. There's Galarian Stunfisk. I don't actually know if that one gets rocks. I've never seen it drafted. We got, wow, Stoutland's 4 points. Whoever had the the T-Tar should probably pick that up. Yeah, so even like Sandslash, bang, pick up a Sandslash, please, because that's a decent one. Pick up a actually pick up Torterra. Where are we? Puffer, buddy. Yeah, so see this mon, this should be a Torterra because it also gives you a ground resist. And then you can pick up a 1 point, I don't know, explosion hazard stack mon, like a Carkol, because your hazards aren't the best. And bang, I have fixed your team. And if you do that, I think it's the best team we've seen so far. Even without it, I think it's a really good team. Yeah, honestly, this is getting a 9 out of 10 from me, because yeah, there's weaknesses, but he's gone top heavy. I respect that. I never thought I'd be giving a Mega Snow team a 9 out of 10, but I really like this team, and I think it's going to do. So far, out of the 12 teams we've done, this is my pick to win the league. I don't know how strong any of the players are. Also, this logo, this is an honorary 10 out of 10, just because this is adorable. We got Riss, we got the Hell Creek Head Smash. Let's take a look. We got Mew, Mega Arrow, Gren, Mamo, Arcanine, Rotom-Mow, Galarian, Weezing, Lantern, Exploud, Vespiquen, and Cobalion. Those top 5 I really like. Arcanine is included in that because it's a mon I just have a bit of a bias towards. These 3 especially, like, oof. This is the team that plays Zamazenta week 1. Have fun with that. Let's look at our speed tiers, as we always do. Mega Arrow goes Zoom. Gren is fast. We got Cobalion, and then down here we got like Arcanine. Mamoswine is a good Scarfer. Mew is always really hard because it can boost its speed in so many ways. Rotom-Mow is a good Scarfer. Yeah, so I think the speed tiers here are nice. Lantern as a second water to Gren, I can understand. Personally, what's his flying resist like? Yeah, actually, no, I can see it, considering a flying, steel is Cobalion. This I don't really agree with, because you're fairy weak. You've got Galarian. Actually, this is probably one of the times Cobalion isn't actually that bad as a steel. Your psychic weakness is a bit, like, Gren isn't a switch in. Yeah, Vespiquen, this isn't a mon. Come on, dude. Drop this thing and, like, pick up something else. Even Exploud, I'm not a fan. Drop these, pick up, like, a psychic type, and I think you're really good. Actually, wait, what am I doing? We got Mew. Oh, I've been recording too long. Oh. Yeah, just drop those 2 mons, dude. Pick up something a bit better. Rockers, we've got Arrow, we've got Mew, we've got Mamoswine, we've got Cobalion. That's a good... We can take Mew out, because if you ever run rocks on Mew, you're doing it wrong. So we've got 3 rockers that are decent. Cobalion wants to come more often than you'd think. Mamo and Arrow don't generally like running rocks. Arrow especially. But Mamo can sometimes fit it, because you want, like, stabs, Ice Shard, rocks, or, like, maybe if you want Stone Edge. I don't know. It's an interesting one. Let's look at our momentum here. Mew, Gren, Rotom, Lantern, Cobalion. That's decent. As I said, Vespiquen and Exploud, I really don't like on this team. But then again, it gives you a special break. That's the other thing this team kind of lacks. Like outside Gren, like Gren's a good like cleaner rather than a breaker. I find. You really need like Specs or Life Orb to start chunking down walls. So yeah, that's what I've decided. These two here should be dropped for a special breaker. But yeah, other than that, like we look across here, it's got some really nice stat distribution. Actually, our Spadef isn't great. Like strong special attackers that aren't resisted by Rotom, you might have a bit of trouble with. Might mean that Mew has to be defensive more often than not. Weezing and Cobalion is really your only defensive ones. I don't know. I like this team, but it's got its flaws. I don't want to give every team a 7 out of 10. What I'm gonna do is when I put some rankings at the end of this video, I'll put up like a nice little article at the end. I'm gonna go back and look at all the 7 out of 10 teams and rank them among themselves. Actually, let's have a look at Jacob. I gave Jacob a 7.5. Yeah, you know what? This is a 7.5. Just because these 4 picks synergize really well. I really like these next 3 as well. And Cobalion actually fits really well on this team. So yeah, 3 to go. Oh, whoop. There's Cobalion. That's a funny logo. I like that. When I was recording this, I didn't start out intending to comment on everyone's logos, but the logo game has stepped up from when I first started. So we got Laddie, Lando, Nape, Megastoise, Skarn, Rabombi, Superior, Frostlass, Bishop, Weezing, and Raichu. Okay, this team is in 2 steps. 5 mons look really threatening. Put them together, you've got some momentum in here, you've got some spin, you've got some rocks, you've got like hazard stack potential. 6 mons. We've got webs for a team that doesn't really need webs. Like Megastoise is the only thing that, and I guess Lando are the only things that really appreciate webs. And Bishop, I guess. But Bishop's pretty underwhelming. Frostlass is a spin blocker for hazard stack, I guess. That's about all I can think of. And then it did get Axel, so like triple Axel Poltergeist banded Frostlass is a thing, and it's a decent speed tier, but it's a speed tier you already had. Bishop's underwhelming. You do have webs, which is one of the few ways that it can work, but having Bishop as your steal and as like when your fire type already doesn't resist fairy, and Weezing is here as your only fairy resist. That's actually you've got Scum. Bishop. I just don't think fits because in terms of physical offense, you've got Lando, Nape. Yes, Nape can run special, but I feel like it's a bit of an ideal world where there's webs up and like you bring Bishop in on a defog and then you can like sucker punch your way through the team. That's kind of what I'm seeing. Weezing, I think Weezing's a good mon. I like Weezing. Weezing gets a lot of hate for some reason. I think it's a really nice fairy resist, even though most fairies get psychic. It's got T-Spike setter, which I think this team is going for hazard stack plus momentum, but I'm not. I feel like with hazard stack you'd want like some real sort of slow hard hitters, something like a Chandelure or I'm not too sure. But yeah, so I feel like I was going for it, and as I said, first 5 mons look really good. I think they're coming almost every week. And then it'll just be which one of these next 6. Honestly, like, I'd drop these 3. Like, Raichu, it's not bad. It's good for that week 1 matchup where you don't play a ground type. I'd drop these 3 and pick up, I don't know, like let's come back to that. So speed tiers, you've got Laddie, you've got Infernape, you've got Rabombi, you've got Superior, you've got Frostlass, and you've got Raichu, and you've got Webs. So that's what I mean. This is one of the fastest teams we've seen that's running Webs. So I don't quite understand that. Personally, I think Webs is there to mitigate slow teams and sort of mean that teams like this can't just overrun and always click buttons first. Looking at our defensive stats, we've got Scum, Stoice, Lando, kinda, because Intimidate, then Wheezing. So it's alright, it's not the best. We got Spidef stats, we got Laddie, which you don't want to be running Spidef Laddie. You got Stoice again. Yeah, so, Momentum, once again, Lando, Infernape, Rabombi, and Raichu. So, I'm a bit confused about the direction of this team. Because these first 5 say, like, pretty standard team, and then suddenly we have Rabombi and Frostlass and Bishop, which is a hazard stack team. And then even you got, like, the Wheezing for the T-Spikes. It's Frostlass is a spiker and a block. Like, it feels like you've just sort of taken 2 teams, chopped them in half, and, like, just merged them together. So I personally think, like, almost these 4 could go. I'd get a stronger fairy type because dragons are a bit of a problem for this team. Like special based dragons are a bit of a problem for this team since Scum and Bishop and Wheezing, well, not Wheezing, sorry, Scum and Bishop are very physically based, and even like a lot of your defense is very physically based. And then maybe just getting like some slow momentum to get your breakers in, because you have a lot of fast momentum at the moment. I don't know. I think this is a 6.5 out of 10. Just because like it's got potential, but I'm just a bit confused as to where it was going. Stanny B. Rotterdam Swallots. That's a cool logo. This is one of these logos that's like, it's not the most difficult to make, but it just looks cool because it's a Swalot. Who doesn't love Swalot? And this is Mega Scizor, Zapdos, Nidoking, Cinderace, Primarina, Hooper Unbound, Como-O, Miltank, Miss Magius, Quilladin, and Murkrow. So, what do I see? I see Mega Scizor. And I see some good fire resists in Como-O, in Cinderace, and in Primarina. That's what I like to see. Also, thick fat Miltank. So you've drafted around Sizz really well. I like Zapdos here. Yeah, this team looks really good off the bat. What are our rockers like? We got Nidoking, we got Como, we got Miltank. So those are 3 really good rockers. These 2 especially, don't mind running rocks and are coming most weeks. We've got our removal in Scizor, Zapdos. So yeah, that's a bit... Oh, you got Court Change Cinderace. That's not bad either. I think, yeah, that's acceptable removal. You got Murkrow if you really need... I don't know why Murkrow's here. I would have... Again, I think a Webs 1-pointer would have been better just because you have a Hooper Unbound, you have a Nidoking, you have a Scizor, like Prim. See, this is a team that, like, Webs could be good on because it's a little bit slow. Looking at our speed tiers, we have Cinderace, and then it goes down to, like, Miss Mag, and our 2 base 100s at Miltank. Well, Miltank doesn't really count because you're not running max speed Miltank, so Zapdos. So yeah, this team's a bit slow. So a 1-point Weber would have been really good. Even like a... yeah, there's not too many Webers that are like great. I personally think that... One thing I'm seeing with a lot of this league is they're drafting 11 or 12 months. Yeah, 11 or 12 months. When I think like even 9 or 10 would have fitted, given that they've gone really top heavy at the beginning. I love these 8 months. Yes, 8 months I can count, I promise. These bottom 3 just sort of... I don't know, I would have loved just sort of one mon that got removal and maybe like just synergized a bit better. Like a grass type removal. Maybe like a... Honestly, if we took these 3 away and put like Decidueye, I don't know if you can afford that. Probably not. But like that sort of mon where it's like removal, it's a bit of momentum. Speaking of momentum, this team does that really well. We got Scizor, we got Zapdos, we got Cinderace, we got Primarina. And so 4 of our top 5 mons help us get in our breakers, which are Hoopa, which are Nidoking, which are Primarina, which is Zapdos, which are Como-O to set up. So I really like that aspect. Looking at our bulk, we've got like Como, we've got Miltank, we've got Sizz, especially you got like Prim and Como's there again. Zapdos is really good. Our special offense is really nice. Then we got like Hooper and Scizor physically. I just really like this team. It's a little slow, but I think this is one of the best teams, honestly. And I think I'll get a bit of hate for that. Looking at our Dark type, yeah, I think this is one of the best teams, honestly. This is getting an 8.5. Actually, let me double check. Firefin, because I did Firefin what feels like 47 hours ago. Firefin. Yeah, no. Actually, no, they're on par. So we're going to give it. Who was I up to? Standing B. No, I like this team more. He's getting an 8.5. And then finally we're on to Sun with the Ripple Tide Blastoise. That's a cute logo. I like commenting on all the logos. We got Coco Mega Medi. Bring back Gen 7, he says, with his first 2 picks. Coco Mega Medi, Gliscor, Zarude, Gengar, Registeel, Mesprit, Gastrodon, Centiskorch, Type Null, Clefairy, and Chatot. And once again, we have the I want to fill out my roster syndrome. Even look, like, it's something I didn't mention with Palkia, but like, we got 2, 3 mons, 4 mons, that like, they just feel like they're there to make up the numbers. This first 5 here, really good. I love Zarude, there's no secret in that, but it fits his team really good, because when we draft Mega Medi, when we draft Gengar, and when we draft Coco, we want to fill that team with mons that get them in, because when they get in for free, they claim Pokemon, and that's what we like doing. Like, all this 5 here, could be dropped. We want a good water type. Yeah, what else do we want? We want a good water type, and we want a good ground. Maybe like a good water type and some slow momentum. And like we have, I'm actually curious how many points did these last 5 cost? Sun. Sunset. Here we go. These bottom 5 here. Wow, Castron was 9 points. That is not worth it. That's 15. 24 points. You get like 12 point mons for that. Like, look at this. Like, you could get a cheeky little Sandcore with Dracozolt and something else there. Like, why is Snorlax undrafted? That mon is so good. Honestly, we need a good water type, didn't we say? There's Volcanion, there's Starmie, like, there's so many good mons up in this tier. But that's not what I'm here about. I'm here to talk about what we did draft. Low-key Volcanion looks really good on this team, because we have a Levitator, we have a Flyer, we have a Grass type. God, my voice is going a bit. But yeah, so momentum. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mons with U-turn. Clefairy, side note, I actually take back Clefairy. I really like Clefairy as a 4-point option. 3-point option. I think I drafted it myself. It's like, for 3 points, it's a steal. It's a really good mon with teleport, with rocks. It can just be a nuisance. So we've got a lot of momentum. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 rockers. And we have 1, 2. Okay, that's where we've gone downhill. Coco and Gliscor are a removal. Yeah, so remember I said you could get a couple of... Remember Volcanion? I think Volk is really good on this team because it's a Scald switch in, which you don't have at the moment. Well, it's a water immunity, which Gastrodon... That's the only thing Gastrodon brings. And it gives you another defogger. So, yeah. Looking at speed, that's the wrong column. Speed, 130, 105, 110. Could be better, could be worse. Yeah, another fast mon would be nice. I don't see what Center Scorch brings to this team at all, if I'm quite honest. I don't think it's a good mon. It's slow, it doesn't get any way to boost its speed, its offensive typing is like decent, but it's a weird mon because it wants to run boots, but then it can't, like, it's just getting revenge killed or swapped into and killed. Our special offense is Gengar and Coco. Yeah, no, I like this team. As I said, I like this team. It does a good job. I think this is a 7.5 team. 7.0, 7.5 out of 10. Just because, like, looking at the team, I think what has been theme for Luxury in its entirety is we've drafted a really good, like, first 3, 4, 5 picks. I'm even going to include Registeel in that because I like Registeel as just I'm here to click rocks, I'm going to be a nuisance, I'm going to spread T-Waves for Mega Medi, which I think is a really nice strategy. Yeah, I don't know, I think we've picked a really nice, like, almost core, and then we've just gone with the I have to fill out my roster syndrome and drafted mons like Centiskorch and Type Null and Chatot. Like, what? Yeah, I don't. I guess Type Null was there to be a ghost immunity because you're kind of weak to ghost. Centiskorch, what? Kills grass types? Like, you didn't have the best poison in the game to do that? And a really good flying. Yeah. That's what it's going to be. So, up here now, I'll have a little ranking. Quick recap. Puffer has the best team by far. Well, not by far, actually. Stanny B and Firefin are going to be my top 3 picks for this league. Yeah, and then we've got the likes of, like, Riss, Sun, Jacob, all in there, and then we've got a few, unfortunately, Jabba. I hated on that team a little bit too much, but as I said, I'm just confused. But that's going to do us. Check back here for the next 4 leagues. Dear God, I've got 4 leagues to go. And yeah, until then, I will see you all later.